it well. Played it very, very, very well indeed.
No more slices for you.
Oh, look at that for judgment.
You'll learn.
Hello everybody, welcome to Slice, sponsored by True Linkswear. Ben and Sam back with our regular Monday episode. Briefly, we've got so much to get through today, but briefly, if you are new, this is where we talk about all of professional golf. I think been about a year and a half doing this, Sam's idea, and I think we tried to talk about what we could bring to the world of golf podcasts, and it is a very busy space. But I think the fact we both absolutely love professional golf was the hook we were hoping to drop, and that's what we do. Like, we talk about tour professional golf at the highest level, and we try and cover as much as possible across men's and women's golf. So that's what you'll get over the next hour. It's what you get every Monday, and there's some bonus stuff on the way. Have I covered everything there, Sam? I think I have.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, the only thing to add is that we try and put an extra lens on the DP World Tour, unlike certain other podcasts. I feel like we try and make an extra effort with that, which it deserves exposure. I think we can all agree.
Totally. So this is a big autumn for us, as well as the tour itself, right? Those go hand in hand.
It's a big week, Ben.
It is a big week, a very big week, one of the biggest weeks in the year for us. Sam and I will be at the British Masters on Tuesday. You won't be, dear listener, because you're not a credentialed member of the press, I'm afraid. But we'll be there, and we're going to try and talk to as many golfers as we can. We've got a few lined up. Do follow us across all the social channels for that. We're on all of them, right? All the big ones. Twitter and so on, Instagram, YouTube, where you might be listening to this podcast. And as ever, I know I do say this a lot, but it really helps us. We've got a really fantastic audience now that we have carved out through nothing but hard work, really, mainly Sam's. But we do need it to grow. We want it to grow. And if you hit like and give us a rating and stuff like that, it's only going to help, and it doesn't cost you anything. So please do that if you could.
That's true, and that will help us, I dare say, Ben, land guests like Ryan Fox, champion golfer of the year.
Totally. They're queuing up to come on now, Sam. They've seen what can happen. His career has gone from strength to strength since he spoke to us. He's our first major champion. I think he's going to be the first of many, Sam. Anyway, the other thing I should have said is we do some fun and game feature stuff, and both of them are your idea, but the most recent addition is a forgotten golfer segment. So about midway through the podcast, it's my turn this week to talk about a golfer we may all have forgotten about, or certainly who slipped from the broader public golfing consciousness. And I said last time we'd start offering a little clue, because I think some people might want to have a guess at who this is. So as I'm doing today's, my clue is going to be that this forgotten golfer has led after 54 holes of a major championship.
Okay, I think I've got. I'm not going to say it yet because I'm going to let other people guess. But when it comes to the time, I'm going to have a stab at that, because I have a feeling I know who it is.
Okay, good. I look forward to it. In the meantime, Sam, what are we doing?
We are. Well, let's talk about. Well, how was your holiday first, Ben? Let's briefly talk about your holiday. Did you have a nice break?
We had a wonderful time. It's really tiring when you've got a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old. But these are precious days, and we had a really nice break.
France, was it?
Mallorca.
Oh,
we went
Mallorca.
because the year before my sister had gone to Mallorca and had met Jeremy Strong from Succession. So I thought maybe he goes there every year. It turns out he wasn't there this time. Or he was, and I happened not to run into him. But yeah, we went to Mallorca, the north east of the island, and it was great. I went when I was 15. I'm a lot older than that now. And it was lovely. Like, the sea was beautiful. The hotel we stayed in was perfect for us, great for the kids. Food was good. Local Mallorcan beer was lovely. Obviously the weather was great. It was a faultless holiday. We had a really good time.
Excellent. Great. And like you say, we are now back. We've had a bit of a break, haven't we? We had a sort of half normal episode last week, but now we are properly back in the grind. Normal weekly Monday sliced episodes. And we always start off talking about last week's events, and we always start off talking about the DP World Tour. And it was the Nexo Championship, which Scott Jamieson has won. He's won for the first time in nearly 14 years, which is good to see. I always love, as you know, Ben, seeing someone in their 40s winning, because it gives me hope that life is not over yet. Maybe if I just sort of knuckle down, maybe that could be me in a couple of years' time. No,
Yeah, in
jest,
a different way, perhaps. Maybe you can win a podcast award or something like that. But yeah, absolutely, it's old guys rule. Well done to Scott Jamieson.
But yeah, did you catch much of this, Ben?
No, I didn't. I'm afraid because of the holiday and getting back from it and stuff like that. I saw a little bit. But like everyone, I think pleased for Scott Jamieson. I think that's the DP World Tour had its summer break, and we've come back with a veteran from Denmark winning in Denmark and a veteran from Scotland winning in Scotland. And I think for Scott Jamieson in particular, this was really important. I think the tournament he'd won, the Nelson Mandela 36-hole event, 14 years earlier.
A par 65, Ben.
Yeah, I think he shot 57 in round 2 to win it and won a playoff. It's just we can say it now, as a joke of a tournament, right? But before I would have been hesitant because I don't want to offend him, and he still went and did it, and someone had to win, and it was him. But whether he would admit to it or not, that validation of winning a 72-hole event, and to do it after such a long time, so many near misses, so many poor Sundays, like no doubt about it, he is a golfer who has struggled badly on Sundays over the last 5-6 years in particular. To put all that to bed in Scotland, I know he lives in Florida now, but he's still a Scotsman. I think it's just a great story. And I keep saying it, but it does set us up for a great autumn. But yeah, in and of itself, that's a great moment. And we talk a lot about tournaments meaning something because of where they are, and to have locals win both of these has been really special, and his own performance as well. Like it helps when he's a brilliant putter when he's firing, and he rolled in a couple of 25-foot putts sort of around the turn, and that put him into that position where he now had control of the tournament, and to go out and close it. I think a lot of people have expected him to falter, and he didn't. So that was great. Really impressed.
Yeah, and he didn't falter, and let's be honest, others did. I really thought for a long while it was going to be Matty Jordan's time. I mean, it's been so many times we felt like, this is going to be his time, but it really felt like that. At one point I think he had a 2-shot lead early on in the day, and he made a double on, I want to say 9, kind of a double out of nowhere, and that just completely derailed him, and he never really got it going again after that. It was just a real shame. Shaun Norris was, he was going very well as well. He got a 2-shot penalty, which we'll talk about in a sec, which derailed his bid. And all of a sudden, Jamieson, and fair play to Jamieson, he stepped up and he took the, he took the moment. Someone had to step forward, and he did that. And like you say, many would have expected him to falter, given what we've learned over the years. And he's sort of veteran, hasn't won for a long time. You kind of, you think, he's probably going to have a wobble at some point. And he didn't. He was excellent down the stretch. So fair play to him. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Shaun Norris incident, because it's a really strange one. I first watched this video, I was actually watching the Bournemouth Man City game. So I've been sometimes scroll on Twitter, as you do, on silent, and I saw this video on silent. I said Shaun Norris has been assessed a 2-shot penalty, and I was watching this video. I was thinking, for what? And I had to watch it about 4 times before I was like, oh, okay, yeah, something to do with his stance. And then when I read that he'd sort of kicked this divot out, and that was deemed as being improving his stance, I thought, God, that's a really harsh one. Because, I mean, well, firstly, obviously I don't know the rules of golf as well as some, but I'm sure I've done that before. Your feet feel a bit uneven, or just kick something, you don't really look what's underneath you, and you might kick out a divot. But yeah, apparently some people have said, he should know, he's a professional golfer, that's part of the rules of golf. I mean, I've looked into the ruling. So this is rule 8.1a brackets 3. A divot that has been put back into a divot hole with its roots down is treated as part of the ground. Now, this is the harsh bit, I think. This status applies even if it is not yet reattached or started growing again, which I think is really sort of ambiguous. It's a real grey area, because how can you know whether or not it has? But I don't know. You feel something under your feet. You don't really think twice about it, I think, is what's happened. But what's your take on it, Ben?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly harsh penalty, but if I don't think anyone can complain if the rules are applied equitably, fairly, and according to how they're written. I think often what we have in golf, because we have a rule book that necessitates things like 8.1a brackets 3. Like, there are a heck of a lot of rules here, and all the time, even those of us who love the game, have been working in it or on the periphery of it for 20 years, you find out new stuff all the time, right? And you didn't know you weren't allowed to do that or whatever. Now, if it was my career, I would like to think, as a golfer, you try and learn as much as possible. So I do understand that point around Shaun Norris as a veteran. He's not 18 years old; he's in his 40s. He probably should know most of the rules, if not all of the rules. But I have no issue with it being applied. But at the same time, it's clearly a very harsh penalty or punishment for something that is just no intent, wasn't intent. He's not even improving his lie, is he, of the ball? He's just improving his stance. The rule is there to guard against other things. But I would liken it to, in football, if you are running away from goal towards the corner flag, you're in the last inch of the box and someone kicks your ankle and you fall over, it's a penalty. And that it's harsh because there was no goal scoring opportunity. And the fact that the punishment is exactly the same as if someone catches the ball on the goal line is a pity. But when you start trying to come up with better solutions, it becomes difficult. And I would imagine this rule is written to stop people doing, dare I say, the sort of thing Bryson DeChambeau did at the Open, where you're trampling on grass and you're kicking away things because you need to be able to stand. And if it has some consequences like this that rear their heads, it's the first time I've ever seen it. So I think it's a pity. I think he can feel frustrated, but all in all, I don't think it's controversial, if that makes sense. It's just a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think maybe not controversial. But I think a lot of people like some of the rules in golf are a little bit silly. But I take your point that if you try and apply it, evenly across everything, then you can't complain too much. But I think the problem is and I think what a lot of people are saying is, if the divot has not been replaced properly by the person who's made the divot, then is that fair in the same way as, if you've got a proper deeply rooted divot that's been there for a few days, it started to properly regrow, versus one that's been kind of half-heartedly kind of slapped down, not properly in the hole. It's surely a different matter, but I accept the point that then it brings in ambiguity, and then people have got a means to say, well, hold it, that's not right. Whereas at least now he can't really complain. It's just the rule is the rule, right?
Yeah, and I think the other problem that we often talk about, especially with these fringe rules, is that I don't know the sequence of events here, but obviously it was in the final group on television, loads of people around.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have got away with that elsewhere, because I would imagine a lot of players didn't really know you can't do that. So there is always that as well. But I still think you end up in the same place with, top of my head, you could say, well, in the fairway, you should be entitled to, take an even stance or whatever. I don't know, but I'm sure that a lot of thought has gone into the rules at some stage. So it's a shame, and I didn't watch enough to see how he dealt with it. I know he has a tendency to get a little hot under the collar, so this can't have helped.
His driving kind of went off after that. Right. His driving, which had been really solid the whole week, sort of did seem to go awry on the back nine, and who knows, could be connected, could not be connected. But I'm sure it must have had an impact, beyond just the two shot penalty itself. But anyway, let's talk about the PGA Tour a bit. So it was the BMW Championship, obviously the second of the playoff events, and Wyndham Clark has won out after birdieing the last 3 holes of the tournament. Now, I caught the very end of this, Ben, last sort of 5 or 6 holes, and Rory was making a really good charge, and I thought, with Wyndham kind of faltering, Rory coming up on the rails, we've seen it many times before, and it really felt like Rory was going to win this. And then he kind of out of nowhere, really, on the 17th hole, he made a complete mess of it, and basically handed the tournament back to Wyndham Clark, but not handed it back to him. I mean, Wyndham Clark, ultimately having not birdied a single hole for the first 15, has then managed to birdie the last 3, and fair play to him in terms of resilience and seizing the moment. You can't really argue with that. We've seen it. He's done it in majors now, and this is another big event, albeit on a small field. But it's an impressive way to win, and I'm sure Rory will be disappointed. But hats off to Clark.
Yeah, it's 3rd win of the season, obviously, and the middle one in terms of significance. that 5-shot lead disappeared, didn't it? And pretty quickly, reasonably quickly. And I, like you, I thought McIlroy would go on and win. There was always that little bit of doubt as to. There's no doubt Bellerive played massively into the hands of long hitters last week.
As you'd identified, Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that type of golf course. And there were a couple of exceptions, but you got Woodland and Gotherup and McIlroy and Clark and a couple of other big hitters up there. And there was that slight element of doubt as to, okay, well, Rory was in a mess the week before, and he said it himself. It wasn't, he self-diagnosed, didn't he, that he needed to do a lot of work to get. And you do sort of wonder, is he actually... what I'm trying to say is, at his best, I think McIlroy would have gone on and won that tournament. I think there was a birdie putt on the 14th that looked good and just stayed low. If that had gone in and he takes the lead on his own, maybe he would have done. But there was still that element of like Rory's got a bad shot in him probably because of what we saw just 7 days ago. But for Clark, basically when someone surrenders a 5-shot lead, I think the point at which the lead goes, you don't expect him to win anymore, do you? So
yes.
Enormous credit to him, and I think. I don't know about you, Sam, but I would make it fairly cut and dried now that he should be the PGA Tour Player of the Year. I think the only thing that should be able to change that really would be Scheffler winning the Tour Championship, especially as he's got hand, foot, and mouth, which make it an even more impressive achievement.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'm kind of one that I don't really. People make a big deal of this Player of the Year. I genuinely don't care, and I think it's kind of just not really necessary. But yeah, if you were to say who should be Player of the Year, then it's Wyndham Clark as things stand, and yeah, probably Scheffler's the only one who could change that with a win this week. Sorry, but the thing is with Wyndham Clark is you get him on the right type of golf course, where it rewards long hitting. And if he's putting well, which most of the time he does, then he's going to give himself a good chance. Because you look at the way that he putted those last few holes, he's pretty deadly when it comes to that. And I say you combine that with his long hitting, then I think is a good combination. That's why you've seen obviously Rory's up there as well, and several others. But there were some moves in terms of obviously the Tour Championship going down to 30 players. So Gary Woodland, Patrick Cantlay, and Bob McIntyre all moved into the top 30 to qualify for the Tour Championship. Particularly impressed, I would say, Ben, by Bob McIntyre because he was dealing with an illness. I think we found out kind of after the event at the St Jude, but to then turn around a top 10 finish the week after, I thought it was really good, and he's had to move well outside the top 30 to get in. So. Fair play to him. And then the three who've moved out, who were in the top 30, were Kitayama, Fowler, and Corley. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Cantlay? Because he's sort of someone who feel like he hasn't really done much all year, but now he's got himself into the Tour Championship. He's probably, almost certainly going to be on the President's Cup team, I think, as a result of that. He seems to just be able to produce things right at the end of the season. It's not the first time it feels like this has happened.
No, he's got a really good record in the playoffs, obviously. I feel with Cantlay, I've always liked him, I'll be honest, but I do feel we like to try and make jokes of certain players. I actually looking at this sheet, our broad plan for the day, and Ricky Fowler's name being on it, it's sort of, he's almost becoming a Fowler type character. And the joke usually comes from consistency, playing in elite fields and not winning tournaments. It's usually that's the general sense of it, and I get it. And it's what is it, 4 years now since Cantlay's won, and for a player of his caliber. But I feel like I always come back to Sam Burns. Well, he's not won since 2023, and no one jokes about him. And I get that because he's almost won a couple of majors, whereas Cantlay's been on the fringes. So look, you can solve all these problems by going and playing better and taking matters into your own hands. But I think we get away from how good a golfer Patrick Cantlay is, and I've felt for a long time the idea that you wouldn't pick him for the President's Cup, I think is just silly. I think it really is silly. I think he's one of the best 5 or 6 American golfers in team golf format. I think you'd argue he's been the best for the last 8 years or so. So I think hopefully that's now behind us. And he's just had a bad putting year, to be honest. Like when he was what happened in 2023, when he really was one of the best 3 or 4 players in the world, he became a deadly putter for a while. And it hasn't lasted, and that's gone now. And unless he gets it back, he will struggle to because he's not an elite driver of the ball. He's a good driver. He's really an all-rounder, isn't he? But he's an all-rounder who can't putt at the moment. So you're not an all-rounder all of a sudden. So look, I hope he presses on and proves a few people wrong, because I do like him. But I think he's done enough to merit being in the Tour Championship. On that, a question for you. Do you think, this is going to be rendered moot if they go to match play, I look at Bud Cauley's name and I feel he's hard done by here. Do you think, as I do, that in absence of a tournament of champions now, should they not invite every winner to the Tour Championship? Or would that be too much of a reward for the guys who win and do nothing else?
It's tricky, because where do you draw the line? I mean, you including someone who's won. You're including Stefano Mazzoli, for example.
No, I'm not including opposite events.
Not opposite field events. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm on board with it, but I'm always on board with increasing the field size, to be honest. Like, up to a certain point. Like, I've got not that much interest in a field of 30, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's just me, That's just my...
It's not just you.
personal view.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. But yeah, I thought of the three names listed there, Kitayama's had a good year, but he can't blame anyone. He's not won or anything. Fowler is similar, really. He had a good chance to win the Truist and didn't. But Bud Cauley, I think he probably deserved to go to the Tour Championship. And I don't know. I would have to check, but it could have been the first time he got there if he had. And it's a shame he didn't. But he should have played better last week.
I'm not sure. You may be right. The only thing I'd say is, he was inside the top 30 going into the week. He didn't need to do that much in order to get through. He ultimately played badly. But you could say, okay, he's had one bad week and that's cost him. So, yeah, I can see both sides. Let's move on to LIV Indianapolis, Ben. So Michael Lasasso has won. That's his first LIV title. Maybe his last. We'll see. But the other thing that's happened is several players technically, and who knows what will happen, technically have been relegated from the league. And they include Martin Keimer, Cameron Tringali, Jason Kokrak, Sam Horsfield. He was a player I was always a big fan of on the DP World Tour, and I really felt like he could go far, to be honest. Phil Mickelson, technically relegated, but, all kinds of caveats. One, that he's a captain. We know that captains historically haven't been relegated. Do they have kind of, medical exemptions on LIV? Presumably something along those lines. So, if there is a LIV 2.0, I'd be very surprised if Mickelson isn't there. But just worth pointing out that there have been some relegations. I'll skip us on through the other events. The LPGA, it was the CPKC Women's Open. Miyu Yamashita has won by 9 shots. Really impressive win, especially actually for someone who, she's among the shorter hitters on the LPGA. So for her to then go and win by, boat race the field by 9 shots, I think just shows how good the rest of her game is. From the newsletter, Canadian Anna Huang has got a share of 4th place, so ticking things over there. And then Corn Ferry Tour, it was the Advent Health Championship, and Japanese player Yuta Segura has won by 1 over Austin Hitt. Austin Hitt shot a final round 60, but Segura has birdied the last 3 holes to win that. I've said, Ben, on this podcast before, that I think Japanese golf is really in the ascendancy at the moment. There's some really good Japanese players winning all over the globe. And I think it's, again, it sort of shows that there needs to be more pathways, I think, from the Japanese tour onto the main tours, because I think there's a lot of untapped talent. And, people can get there, but I think it needs to be expanded.
Yeah, he just briefly on him. I tipped him at 300, maybe 400 to 1 for your favourite tournament, the ISPS Handa Championship, when it went to Gotemba 2 years ago, and I think he was tied for the lead with about 9 holes to play, and obviously finished 1 shot out of the places. But he was the top ranked amateur in Japan, basically after Nakajima. So there's serious pedigree there, and to see him birdie the final 3 holes to win, and I think he hit it to like 2 feet on 2 of them. Big talent, and looking forward to seeing what he can do. And speaking of big talents, also there was one of those who won on the Hotel Planet Tour.
It was, yeah, Dominic Foos. So yeah, he won the Finnish Challenge. So he'd won the Macau Open last October on the Asian Tour, and he'd predominantly be playing on the Asian Tour. But the Asian Tour have had a big old break this summer, like a good kind of couple of months off. And he's been playing, as I understand it, just under invites on the Hotel Planet Tour since then. So just been relying on those invites. But yeah, it's a win for him, and that obviously locks up all kinds of new status for him that he hasn't had for a while in Europe. So, yeah, a big win for him. And just to briefly go back to Corn Ferry Tour, I did want to also mention Sandy Scott, who is someone who I think has got a lot of potential. He's had a really good season. It was a top 5 finish for him there. So, young Scottish player, and I think we could be hearing a lot more of him in the years to come. In the news, Ben, quite a lot to cover here. We'll start off with some positive news, which is that per bunkered, Andrea Pavan is recovering well from his injury. You may remember he had a horrific accident where he fell down the lift shaft. He started playing golf again. This is just 6 months after that accident, and he has set his sights on a return to the DP World Tour soon. So that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, tremendous. I think when this news broke, I think everyone thought it might be life-threatening. So to be playing golf, he's going to make a full recovery, whether he gets the DP World Tour or not. Obviously he'll have a medical extension or whatever. A full recovery in a non-sporting sense is fantastic. So yeah, great news. Yeah.
And then Gary Player has announced, I believe it came from him anyway, that Bryson is going to be playing this year's Nedbank Golf Challenge in December. So that wasn't one I was necessarily expecting, but Gary Player is an interesting character, isn't he? And obviously felt like it could benefit from Bryson's involvement.
Yeah, it's fantastic for the event, and it will be. I think Bryson will be hugely popular in South Africa. Obviously, won the event in South Africa on the LIV Golf Tour this year. So yeah, massive for the event. It'd be fun to see him play Gary Player, won't it? Because you've said it before. Generally, you need to hit the ball a long way there, but there's also some serious trouble to be found if you're offline. So I'm looking forward to finding out how he plays. Yeah.
When you said it's going to be fun to see how he plays Gary Player, I thought you meant they were like having a head-to-head match on YouTube or something.
Sorry, no. How he plays Gary Player is.
Country
I always
Club.
get the name wrong. Sun City, as we'll call it among friends. Yeah. He might well go and win it. We'll see. But obviously, it'd be interesting to know where he plays before then, because that's in 4 months. So
true.
3.5 months. Where's he going to play in the interim? I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if he ended up at the Dunhill Links, say, on an invite from Johan Rupert. We will see. But I imagine he'll play somewhere.
Then we've got various LIV adjacent news. So per Front Office Sports, LIV Golf are being sued for $1.23 million in missed payments by Fresh Tape Media. Now, this is the company that produced and operated the league's pre-season Media Days event. So apparently they're not the only ones, I think, who have not been paid, but there's obviously quite a high-profile one, and they've taken it as far as actually suing LIV Golf. I mean, it's quite a lot of money they're suing for, but I mean, not good to be not paying your bills, I would suggest, especially, this is months after the event.
No, and with them expected to file for bankruptcy, the likelihood is that Fresh Tape Media have to settle for far less than they're owed. I have to say, Sam, it seems an awful lot of money to be paying for a 2-day event, does it not? I couldn't get my head around that. I think this is a 2-day pre-season event that a production company have come and filmed and made content from. 1.23, I'd have done it for a couple of hundred. Like, this is, I couldn't get my head around it. But good luck to them. They're obviously operating I'm sure they're a brilliant business to be charging that much. And obviously I don't understand fully what they were paid for or supposed to be paid for. It just, I thought it was missed in the discussion, because obviously everyone's feasting on the fact that LIV has got another unpaid bill. But we've become immune to the numbers involved here. They're paying 7 figures for a third party to go and do a couple of days' work.
Well, I don't know. Has that happened? Or maybe it started out at, say, $500,000, and then they didn't pay their bills. So they said, we're going to charge you interest because you haven't paid. And then that sort of, I don't know, I'm guessing. In terms of other LIV news, so Scott O'Neill had a press conference ahead of LIV Indianapolis. And among other things, he released a new catchphrase, which is complete, not compete. And he said, golf doesn't need one tour to win and everyone else to lose. There are great tours around the world. They serve different purposes. We believe players should have the flexibility to compete across these platforms when they're good enough and enhance the fields. We shouldn't live in a world where one group of golfers is uniquely restricted from playing elsewhere. Our goal isn't to replace or restrict any tour. Our mission is to bring something distinctive to the ecosystem that elevates it and makes the whole game better. What are your thoughts on this, Ben?
Well, I don't want to kick them too much when they're down. Do I? No, I think there's a reasonable argument that you can't blame Scott O'Neill for what happened prior to his tenure. But the reality is this is the same company, albeit under new leadership. This is the same company that very much did not want to complete. It wanted to compete. So obviously people are going to bristle at being told, hey, guys, we just want to be friends. They only want to be friends because they're absolutely screwed if they are not allowed to be friends. So they have no viable long-term future if they remain ostracized. So of course they want to change that. But it's a bit much from the same company that tried to buy a load of DP World Tour National Opens as recently as 6 months ago, and who wanted to take the best players from the PGA Tour as an aggressive sports washing strategy. So it's a bit much. And it's why, for me, you could now make that argument that, okay, well, I like this idea that LIV Golf had, and I think Scott O'Neill's the right man for the job. You can have all those, but they are going to be forever tarnished by the brand. So LIV Golf 2.0, for me, I think they should have serious conversations about whether it's just an entirely new operation and it has a different name, a different brand, and a whole new start, because they have been damaged severely by what they've done. But that's not necessarily Scott O'Neill's fault. So I have some sympathy for him. He's got a hard job at the moment.
The only thing I'd add to that, though, is that I've always felt this is they're very much only really inviting one-way traffic, which is LIV players to be able to play elsewhere, DP World Tour, PGA Tour, whatever. There's never really been an invite. Oh, guys, come and make up the LIV field. Come and join, the high flyers for a week. It's not. It's a one-way street. So it's sort of, you can talk about completing, not competing, but you kind of have to. You have to open it up both ways. Otherwise, people are understandably going to feel a little bit like, well, especially the DP World Tour are going to feel like, well, come on, what's in it for us, really?
Yes, and for John Rahm should be able to say, I mean, obviously he's not going to be there, but he should be able to say, I'd rather play on the PGA Tour than live South Africa or whatever. LIV has never seemingly been open to that. I do think there's an argument. I don't think it will happen. But there's an argument the PGA Tour could call their bluff and say, okay, you're not banned anymore, because they'd only if there'd be some complications around status, but basically most of those LIV players would find out that they're simply not good enough to get to the PGA Tour, unless returning where they left it 4 or 5 years ago. There are a heck of a lot of players who have never been good enough for the PGA Tour as yet. They may yet be. So you could call their bluff and in the end end up with like Rahm and Neiman and a few others. But I don't think they'll do that. So it's moot.
No, I don't think they'll do that. Whether there'll be some sort of a 2.0 of the membership program, returning membership program or whatever, I don't know. Maybe there'll be something along those lines that invites the likes of Rahm to come back with sort of new terms, but it remains to be seen what happens there. In more LIV news, so Scott O'Neill also called out DP World Tour Players Relations Director Stuart Cage. He accused him of calling LIV players and their managers to try and sort of tap them up, essentially. But Evan Priest has contested that his sources suggest that Cage was actually fielding regular calls from DP World Tour members and non-members who are on LIV seeking options to play future events, as opposed to the other way around. So it felt like there's a little bit of gaslighting going on there from Mr. O'Neill, and it doesn't
returning a missed call isn't the same as calling people, is it? So you can be absolutely certain that Stuart Cage has had a lot of missed calls over the last few months from, and we've talked about it. Caleb Surratt wanted to play in a Hotel Planner Tour event. He actually entered it. So how does that happen? He didn't play it because someone rang him and said, "Do you fancy coming?" He played it because he desperately needs places to play. So yeah, you're right. Gaslighting is the word.
And per the Fried Egg, Tyrrell Hatton and Tom McKibbin, their walkout songs for the LIV Indianapolis party hold on Thursday were "I Want to Break Free" by Queen and "Breaking Free" from High School Musical, and feels like this was intentional, let's say.
Yeah, I don't want to get too sort of po-faced about this, Sam, but I did have mixed feelings here, because I sort of thought, well, don't take the piss, lads. You've just made astronomical money from this outfit. Like, I owe LIV nothing. I've been consistent with how much I dislike it. But these guys have been made rich for life by that operation. They chose to go. They knew the terms under which they signed. And I think to take the piss is a bit much, a bit on the nose for me. Like, but then there's part of me that thinks, oh, it's just a bit of fun. And it probably is that. But it's just a bit like, I don't know. I just find it as a golf fan who's had to suffer the game who's had to, have Tyrrell Hatton and Tom McKibbin messing around on that rubbish when they could have been playing at Sawgrass and all the tournaments I like. It's a personal view. I just feel a little bit like it's rubbing your nose in it a little to now play like, oh God, someone help me. I need rescuing. Shouldn't have gone in the first place, lads. That's the top and the bottom of it. And if you are going to go and you are going to take the money, then go quietly. Is how I feel about it. But I'm probably too serious.
Yeah, I can see your point. Yeah, my initial reaction was that's quite funny.
It is also quite funny. I admit, I do have a sense of humour. I should be clear.
Yes,
I have mixed
fine.
emotions.
You've looked deeper at that, and that's fine. Per the Financial Times, this is a funny one, Ben. I got to say, people familiar with the matter say Yasser Al Ramayan. His embarrassment at Sergio's meltdown at the Masters helped lead to his decision to pull the plug on the PIF's financing of LIV Golf, as the fund focuses more on huge domestic commitments in the kingdom. I don't know. It's a funny story. I don't know necessarily how true it is. It feels a little bit far-fetched that he would be like. I mean, surely the more logical thing would be like to boot Sergio off LIV rather than pull the plug on the entire operation. No.
Yeah, it's a load of nonsense. I'm a defender of the free press with my dying breath, and these are experienced reporters with good sources. But I think two things have been put together. It's a 2 and 2 = 5 for me. Yes, Yasser Al Ramayan was embarrassed by Sergio's behaviour. Yes, he will have hated it because he will maybe his goal is to get membership to Augusta. Always has been. So he will have been embarrassed. He will have felt that it was a blow to his personal agenda. But he didn't then go. There was a war in the Middle East that had a rather large part in this. And a general, Eamon Lynch has written about it, and I agree with everything he wrote. The Neon Project and everything else. There are loads of primary factors. This is at best the straw that broke the camel's back, but I think even that oversells it. So I'm sorry, I have a hard time with that one. Funny again, though it was. I sound like I've gone all serious.
It leads on to a question I had. I'm just going to bring it up because I've forgotten the chap's name. Matt Jones, because you mentioned about the war in the Middle East, and Matt Fitzpatrick had mentioned something in his press conference before the BMW Championship about, I don't know whether the race to Dubai, the playoff events are going to happen or not, or words to that effect. I mean, do you know anything about this, Ben? Matt Jones is saying, what's going to happen with that, with the conflict that's still going on in the Middle East. Are those events likely to happen? If they are not happening, do they move them elsewhere, or are they just simply cancelled?
No, I think they'll, as things stand, we'd have to assume they will happen. It's probably not the time or the place to discuss the far more serious matters that are still going on. But as I would understand it, the danger level in Dubai and across the United Arab Emirates is lower than it was when events were cancelled in the spring. And
definitely,
there are some rescheduled Hotel Planet Tour events coming up in the Middle East, I believe. Which I can now confirm by doing a few clicks. The Abu Dhabi Challenge is supposed to take place 4 weeks on Thursday, maybe 5 weeks on Thursday. So that'll be
an interesting one to test.
Yeah.
Yes, if that happens, then there's a good sign. The playoffs will continue as normal. Last thing to mention before we move on to your Forgotten Golf of the Week, there was a new driver advert by Good, where it shows a woman being pushed to the ground after reaching for a club. This advert was subsequently taken down. So Good were obviously strongly linked with Callaway, owned by Callaway, and it followed it was followed by a pretty pathetic apology, I would have to say, and where it said the driver ad did not align with the brand's values. And I got to say, it left me wondering. Well, okay, someone's come up with this creative concept. Several people have been involved in filming this creative concept. Someone has signed off on this concept before it goes live, and the actual video itself. So, at what point did were the values of the brand not considered?
What more can you say? The values of the brand were clearly considered from the start, and then they've realised that the values they have are not shared by the public at large, and that's the top and the bottom of it. But I suppose what else could they say? Like, the only other alternative is, well, we thought it was funny. Sorry, you're offended. And I think that would have been a mistake to go down that route. I don't know enough about them, really. It's not my cup of tea. I could do away with all YouTube golf and continue about my life. It would have no impact on me whatsoever. But clearly many people do like it. But what I will say, you only have to look at some of the replies from defenders of the brand, who actually, in a sort of cruelly ironic twist, they might have lost even more of their followers by apologizing, because there are many people who think they didn't need to apologize. What can you say? I don't know what else to say. It glorified violence against women, for Christ's sake. And people
badly misjudged, I would say.
It was fucking stupid, yeah. But also, like, speaks to some. Like, it's not just a misjudgment, is it? It's deeper than that, because of the reasons you gave. It's not a misjudgment. It's it highlights a set of values that are way off what should be considered acceptable. Like, I don't know. They're supposed to be sponsoring a PGA Tour event in a month or two. I don't think it's unreasonable to say the PGA Tour should be looking twice at that. Like, how can you be the champions of all the things they claim to be champions of, and do all the work for charity they do? I know it's a men's golf league, so it's not exactly got feminism at the forefront, but this is supposed to be an inclusive sport, and I would want more from them than that apology, at least, if they're going to carry on with this tournament. I think the PGA Tour should be, and I think they will be, having some serious conversations with the people behind it and trying to work out what they can do to smooth things over. But I didn't care for the brand before, and I care for them even less now. But that's not the point, really. I think it just shines a light on something deeply uncomfortable, which is that there are some pretty nasty people who think that sort of thing's okay.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to lighter things. Or I hope it's lighter things anyway, Ben, with your Forgotten Golfer of the Week. And I'm going to have a guess based on what you said earlier on. So you said a 54-hole leader.
I think you're going to get it
at the Open. I'm saying Andres Romero.
Oh, no, you were so close. You were so close. Oh. No, I didn't say the Open. I said a major. You were right to go for the Open. But it's Paul Dunne. Ireland's Paul Dunne is my answer. Okay, so nice. He was the 54-hole leader of the 2015 Open, a joint leader. Played in the final group with Louis Oosthuizen. Said he had a horrible time. It's interesting reading back through some of his quotes that he said that day all he cared about was winning. And as soon as his chance to win had gone, I think he missed a birdie putt at the 9th and he knew he couldn't win. He was like, I don't care if I finish last now. I just want to get out of here. And he said he just wanted to get out of the way. And it's interesting. I think as he gets older, I'm sure he's reflected on that and that he should really have enjoyed that experience more and tried to learn and soak it up. But anyway, the reason I selected him is it is British Masters Week, and it's easy to forget, but 9 years ago, he shot a final round 61 to beat Rory McIlroy at Close House in a very high-class renewal of the British Masters. This is 18 months, or 2 years, actually, after he'd contended for the Open as an amateur. He'd lost a playoff earlier in the year to Eduardo Molinari in Morocco as well, and I think everybody thought he had the world at his feet. And he also won Golf Sixes. The nice little reminder of that little experiment for you on the DP World Tour. And one of the interesting things, so essentially, a long story short, around the time of COVID, he got a bad wrist injury, and that resulted in the driving yips. He couldn't keep the ball on the planet. Everyone has always said with Paul Dunne, everyone who plays with him, the guy's short game is insane. And I think sometimes that's like, when people say that about you, it sort of implies there might be some long game issues. Sometimes it does anyway. I remember Rory McIlroy said it about Jonas Blixt in the Masters. He basically was like, they were like, oh, how impressed were you with Jonas Blixt? He was like, yeah, I mean, he can scramble. And this is in the Masters. Anyway, back to Paul Dunne. one of the interesting things I think he's played on the PGA Tour 7 times. 4 times he finished in the top 15. He had back-to-back top 10s in the Corrales Punta Cana and the Houston Open back in 2019, I think it was. So he clearly could live with the best golfers in the world. Clearly. He beat Rory McIlroy, for goodness sake. But COVID, injury has ruined him. He's not played really competitive golf for a couple of years. His best finish since 2020 is 20th on the Clutch Tour. But he did win the 2025 eGolf Order of Merit. I don't know what that is, but he won it. And more recently has become a father. Do you know who his fiancée is, Sam?
Georgia Hall.
Yes, there you go. So that rounds us off nicely. And do you know who Georgia Hall supports?
No, I don't.
AFC Bournemouth. So there you go. We round it off with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that. Just like David Lingmouth. Excellent.
There you go.
The eGolf Tour, I believe, Ben, is I want to say it's Scandinavia based. I could be wrong, but it's literally it's a sim. You're hitting into a sim screen and you're playing courses, and then there's it's like a tour like any other tour, but people can be playing all over the world, as I understand it. So I know that Oliver Lindell was playing he was playing some of those events, I think, over the winter break. If it's the same tour I'm thinking of, but yeah. Okay. I believe that's the one. But yes, Paul Dunne, very good one. Actually, I've started making a little short list of forgotten golfers of the week, and he was top of my list. So I probably would have done it next week if you hadn't done. But I'm glad you did it, Ben. I think you did a fine job. A little word for our sponsors, True. So Slice is sponsored by True Linkswear, a company born from a simple idea by Ryan Moore and his brother Jason, who couldn't find a golf shoe worth wearing. True reinvented what golf footwear should feel like. Comfortable, minimalist, and designed to enjoy the walk both on and off the course. Now, while we were gone on our summer break, Ben, Ross Steelman won for the second time on the Corn Ferry Tour. He is a True ambassador, and he has locked up his PGA Tour card for next year. So True are going places, and Slice listeners can get 15% off all True shoes and apparel with the code SLICED.
Tremendous. And Ross Steelman he's a character, isn't he? I like the look of him. He looks a bit different to the average golfer. So
not many tour players have got a sleeve tattoo, have they? So
no, exactly.
Breaks the mold a little, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Goes well with the Dead Golfer logo, which you can see on the True website.
Indeed. Right, world of golf this week. So the big one, of course, is the British Masters. As you mentioned, Ben, we are going to be there pretty much all day tomorrow and speaking to all kinds of people. It is back at the Belfry for certainly the last few years it's been there. What are your expectations, Ben, of how this will play? I mean, it's going to be firmer, I suspect, than recent years, but what is the kind of recipe here for contenders at the Belfry?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because when we went last year, I was amazed. Last summer was not anything as hot as this summer, but it's still been really nice, and I was amazed at how green the course was when we got there. I will be doubly amazed if it's green when we get there tomorrow. What's fascinating for me is that last year sort of returned us to what you might have expected from the Belfry, whereas the year before, Nicholas Norgard-Muller beat Thriston Lawrence, beat Jesper Svensson, beat John Wonko, and Rasmus Højgaard, I think. There are 5 really big hitters in the top 5. Last year, Alex Noren's won. Yes, Nikolai Højgaard tied second, but Kazuma Kobori, one of the shortest hitters on the tour, was tied second. And that theme generally held sway. And that would make sense, really. It's quite an interesting layout, the Brabazon. You've got 12 par 4s, only 3 par 3s and only 3 par 5s. The par 5s are reachable for everybody. The 10th is drivable, but it's drivable for everybody. It's a genuine decision. You will see big hitters who don't want to go for it, and you'll see short hitters who do. So I don't think driver needs to be the key club here. The other point to make is that fairways are really hard to hit at the best of times. So I think if it is as firm as we expect, they'll be doubly hard to hit. I think you want an accurate players, sharp irons, and go from there. Really, it's a bit boring, but obviously that's Alex Noren in a nutshell. Yeah.
And it's Kazuma Kobori, as you mentioned. I mean, maybe it could be his one. He's been playing pretty well lately, hasn't he? As I mentioned, we're going to be there tomorrow, and we're going to be getting bits of content for our channels. So definitely worth subscribing to us on YouTube specifically, because there'll be some video clips. Hopefully we'll be caddying a hole for a couple of players. I'm not going to mention the names yet in case it falls through, but there'll be some interesting video content. So definitely give us a follow on YouTube. The PGA Tour, it is the Tour Championship, the playoff finale, which is at East Lake as ever. As you pointed out last week, Ben, which I'd forgotten about, the winner of this event wins the FedEx Cup. So it's got no bearing what has happened in the weeks preceding it. You win this week, you win the FedEx Cup. And I think did you say that you thought that McIlroy was going to win, or am I getting confused with the race?
I did initially, and obviously there'd be no reason to be. We had that conversation at the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs, and he played terribly at Southwind. He played much better last week, and he now goes to Eastlake, and I do think he cares about winning the FedEx Cup, rightly or wrongly. He's got a chance to set a benchmark in the FedEx Cup that may never. Especially if it changes to match play, he could easily be the all-time FedEx Cup winner. How much of a value you place on that will be up to the individual, but I think McIlroy does care. So yeah, I think he got every chance. So, I mean, the main thing is Scheffler over his hand, foot, and mouth, and how many players has he passed it on to? Genuinely, it's very contagious. Anyone who's got nursery-age children will be terrified at the mere mention of it. I'm worried about contracting it through the television. So we'll see how he is. It's not a tournament that sets my pulse racing, I'll be honest. I could do without it.
I'm sticking with my prediction, Ben. I think Xander he's done not that much this year by his standards, but he just loves Eastlake, and I think he's gonna be there or thereabouts. But I do actually really like McIlroy. I think with having got the bad week out of the way at the St Jude and played so well last week, I feel like he's primed now, and definitely of the top two in the betting, I think McIlroy would be the one that I'd be looking at. But Schauffele just loves this course. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say as well, I probably don't need to mention it, but there's a lot of talk of McIlroy's schedule and what have you. I will just remind people that this is not the end of his season. So, Scheffler and Schauffele and Cantlay and all those others are going to play the President's Cup in a month. Good luck to you. McIlroy's going to go and play the Irish Open. He's going to play Wentworth. He's going to play in India. He's going to play in Australia. He's going to play in Dubai. He's going to presumably play Abu Dhabi. He's got he's 2/3 of the way through his season. So I'm a big fan of the PGA Tour, but anyone who criticises him for stepping back from it has to at least acknowledge that he's doing that to conserve energy for his other commitments and his other priorities, which I would argue are more significant for the game of golf at large. So I'm personally very pleased that he's cut back on the PGA Tour and that he'll be travelling the world for the next 3 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then other events are going on. It's the Hotel Planetour, the Dormy Open in Sweden. Now, not to throw you under the bus here, Ben, but will you be doing a preview for our newsletter on this one?
Depends how much time you give me tomorrow, Sam, but I'll knock something up. Be having you look over my shoulder while I do it, no problem. Excellent.
I mean, it saves me a job. The LPGA, it's the FM Championship, which is at TPC Boston, which is one that I fondly remember from the days that was a playoff hosting event. And the LET is back in action. It's the Women's Irish Open, and that's at the K Club, which is a course that we all know very well from various events, including the Ryder Cup. I'll have a little look at that one, but yes, might be a stretch to do a preview this week with all of our Belfry stuff that we're doing, Ben. But yes, we are going to bring back. It's probably the first time in a month I think we've done this, Ben, and I've missed it greatly.
Could be rusty here. Could be rusty.
It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder.
What better way to bring back highest bidder than a topic from Inkblot Sports, Ben?
Perfect. You could have stopped there and I would have said, this is going to be Inkblot Sports. We've had many fine contributors. I think we all feel the level of difficulty goes up a notch when Phil gets involved.
Indeed. There are 14 European Tour players who have maintained status in the Q School Graduates category or above for at least the last 10 years and have never retained a PGA Tour card or never had one in the first place. Clarifications if needed. The last 10 years is defined as August the 20th, 2016 through August the 20th, 2026. Okay. So basically we're talking about players who have been on tour for a long time without getting as far as reaching the PGA Tour.
The last 14 years.
They've stuck around for, was it 10?
Sorry, there are 14 players over how many years?
10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, I'll have it at 7 of them maybe, but I don't think I'll get close.
7 is a high bid on that. This is a tough topic. Initially got to think of players who've been on tour for that long and haven't. Yeah, that's really tough. I think I'll let you have a stab there at 7, Ben.
Okay. So I'll start with you, Sloughton.
Yes, correct. He is on the list.
Pablo Larrazabal.
Yes, very good. Kept status since 2008. Very good.
We're in a bit of bother now. We are in a bit of bother with 2. Now, I want to say Ross Fisher, but he's on his career money exemption this year, and hand on heart, I probably should know. You're looking at me as if say Ross is on the list, yeah? So Ross is on the list.
Well done.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's 3. That's pretty good, isn't it? Three's good. I'm happy with 3. This is the last 10 years, so since 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. So veteran. I wonder if this might have been in part in tribute, but I don't know as he's been on the tour that long. I'm going to say Jeff Winter, but I don't think it's right.
He has kept status since 2016 exactly, so he is probably the youngest on the list. But yeah.
So how many is that for?
That's 4. Yeah. You've got this, Ben. I reckon.
I don't think I have, mate. I don't think I have. I'll be honest. That suggests they're quite obvious ones remaining, but I
mean, ish as obvious as they can be in this hard topic.
Q score La higher.
Yeah.
Was it okay? So Dodo Molinari.
Yes, very good. 2 more.
I actually wonder if Xander Lombard got his card in 2016-17.
I'm afraid that's going to be your mulligan, Ben.
Ah,
you're still alive.
Okay, because I'm trying to go older than this, but no, Brandon Stone went down to the Challenge Tour for a year, didn't he? Oh, this is really hard. This is really hard.
Would you like a clue, Ben? Because I feel like you often give me clues.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Okay, think Spaniards.
So I was going to say Jorge Campillo, but he got on the PGA Tour, so not Jorge Campillo.
Well, yeah, Spaniard. I mean, you're right. He's actually on the list here, but I think Phil's got this wrong because he was on the PGA Tour. So
he didn't play a full schedule, did he? But he did earn his card through the race to Dubai and had a go.
Wait, he said, sorry, there was a further clarification which I missed. It said retaining a PGA Tour card is defined as finishing in the top 125. So he means having gone on the PGA Tour, but then not retained
Lost it
it
immediately. Okay,
so yes,
I would have got Campillo knowing that, so that's fine. So, so I'm on to 5. I'll need more.
You're on to 6. You're on to 6 now.
I'm on 6. Okay.
Yep.
I need
just
clues
one more
for the rest. Sorry.
Another Spaniard.
Another Spaniard since 2016-17.
I mean, there may be one that is no longer a Spaniard.
Oh, Adrian, the pirate. Yeah, of course, Adrian Otaegui. Yeah, that's a great shout, that one. Yeah.
Yes, I'll do the rest. So there was another Spaniard, which is Nacho Elvira, and then Scott Jamieson, who obviously maybe it was a nod to him, but Beef Johnston has kept his status since 2015. Haotong Lee, he's also recently gone up to the PGA Tour, but he would apply as well. Richie Ramsey, Jason Scrivener, and Andy Sullivan. That's
fabulous.
The complete list.
Great category, that, and I'm not ashamed of my effort there.
I mean, what amazes me with that is Phil must have dug really deep to produce that list. I mean, some of these you can just kind of Google and produce a list. He's had to really delve through the archives to find that. So, excellent topic. Yeah. Well done, and well done, Ben, for getting your 7. Right, that leads us to the end of our episode. As mentioned earlier on by Ben, please do rate, review this podcast because it does massively help us grow. So anything you can do like that doesn't cost you anything. Will take you 30 seconds or less, but it does massively help us grow. So please do that if you've enjoyed this episode or indeed any of our episodes. And we'll be having some great bonus content coming up very soon. So we'll see you next time.